Alright, we're getting started. I will give a summary. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Okay. So this is the review of session 11. We covered ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, ayahs 26 through ayahs 30. First I have to apologize because I missed like the first 30 minutes of the class. So my review will be not as comprehensive as it could be. So we started with ayah 26. And we talked about the using similitudes of small things, such as a gnat, and the criticism of the scholars of Medina towards the Prophet, peace be upon him, and specifically regarding Revelation, how the Quran uses comparisons or similitudes of tiny, small things. And sort of the rebuttal of that is to say that nothing is too small or out of the scope of Allah's creation. Size is not relative to importance, so to speak. But also demonstrates the importance that the Quran is not exclusive to the scholarly class, right? That even every person, no matter what their level of knowledge or education, can gain a certain connection to Allah through the Quran. Indeed, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself was not a scholarly person. The common thing we hear is that he was illiterate, but that may not exactly be literally true. He just wasn't someone of a scholarly class. He wasn't a lettered person, so to speak. He taught person to person, and the Quran also, primary means was through memorization. So the books of the Torah of the Judaic tradition are not, the scholars do not have a monopoly on that. So that's one of the importance, a couple of the importance of ayat number 26. And the ayah ends with talking about, وَمَا يُدِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ, and he misleads only the rebellious, the fasiq, right? So being in a state of rebellion, it essentially precludes you from receiving guidance. So then ayah 27 and 28 talks about the ahdallahi, the covenant. We talked about the original covenant before our birth, all of mankind being assembled, and essentially asked, who is your creator? And we all pledged that Allah is our creator, and we will seek Allah. And this manifests itself in the fitrah. We talked about the fitrah, what the fitrah is, how every human being born has a pre-programming, so to speak, an innate yearning to connect with our creator, and also an innate sense of right and wrong, or an innate sense of boundaries. I saw that bug too, right? Is it a ladybug? Yeah. No. They're not bugs, right? They're like little, cute little people, right?
Yeah, it's just like carrying along. That was impressive.
Right?
Yeah.
No, if you do that with a cockroach, I'll be impressed.
Yeah.
Right?
Although, if you did that with Omar, I'd be more impressed.
Yes.
Okay, out.
Right?
Omar,
Okay.
he just said he wanted to let you know Bears won.
I saw that. Yeah. Thank you. Bears won. Yes. So, overtime. Yeah. Anyways, continuing. So, innate yearning to connect with our Creator, and an innate sense of right and wrong, or an innate sense of boundaries. What are our boundaries, right? One of the fascinating concepts of fitrah that I think, so like a child will naturally want to cover up, or people have a natural aversion to nakedness, nudity. That's one of our boundaries which we are born with, right? We also have an innate, knowing that if we're telling a lie or we're doing something wrong, we know it inside. This is part of our fitrah. That is, of course, corruptible, right? But it is also purifiable once it is corrupted. So even, guidance is bringing us back to that state, so to speak, and fulfilling that original covenant. So that's ayahs 27, talking about those who break the covenant, seek to make mischief on earth, and ulaika humul khasirun, they are the losers. Okay. Ayah 29 then goes into, we started to touch on the story of creation, the story of Genesis, right, in the New Testament, in the Old Testament. So, Ayah 29, Allah created all that is in the earth, and then He turned to the heavens. He is the knower of all things, right? So then in Ayah 30, then we started with the story of the angels. Now it is mentioned, the angels are mentioned here, and we had a discussion about how do the angels affect us. So we turn to Surah 41, Ayahs 30 and 32, about how the angels come to our aid, right, in our time of need for the believers, right? So we also talked about how when an ayah begins, وَإِذْ, right? So it says, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ, when Allah said to the angels. So when it says, begins with وَإِذْ, the point is to consider the lesson that follows. So that like the historical actual accuracy of it is not so much important as what does that story mean to us, right? So consider the lesson or the point. Inni ja'alakum fil ardi khalifatun. So we talked about the word khalifatun, meaning literally means one who comes after. In this case, it's like a viceroy, and it implies responsibility, right? So us, mankind, are khalifatul ard. We are the viceroys, or we have a responsibility to this realm with which we live in this life right now. So then Allah asks, the angels then, rhetorically sort of speaking, not in a rebellious way, ask Allah, have you created someone that will do harm and shed blood while we worship you, right? Assalamu alaikum. So essentially the answer from Allah to the angels was, I know what you do not know, all right? So that began the story of creation, which we will continue today with Ayah 31. And that's it. Thank you. Let me start this over.
Is it charging?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.